Hello, BookTube. You know, I'm the first person to admit that not all best books of the year end lists are created equal. How can I not know that, since for the last 10 years I myself have been the sole author of the single best such list anywhere in the world? But even so, when the end of the year rolls around and these lists start to bury readers, I kind of expect that the best journals will at least give it the old college try. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen in 2016. Like, for instance, the most prestigious literary journal in the world is the TLS. And this is their Books of the Year issue, in which they invite a lot of their most regular reviewers to sound off on some of the books that made a strong impression on them. And although it's not a best of the year thing, really, it's not a ranking, it's still the net effect of all these people writing about the books that they read during the year is to create a kind of kaleidoscope that gives you a kind of a sonogram of the literary landscape in 2016. Except reading through these little paragraphs by a lot of these people, it's amazing how little they read in 2016. I'm sure there were good reasons for it. Award ceremonies to go to, Brexit. But some of them are downright embarrassing. And like, for instance, Rachel Hadas, who starts off her single paragraph with the line, "Neither of the two books that held my attention this year was published in 2016. So A, why did she agree to write this paragraph? And B, why did the TLS editors agree to include it? When the only thing it signals is that this person doesn't read anything. You can accidentally read more than 2 books a year. So why is it even in here? And a lot of them, the others, are no better. So for consolation, you turn from the most prestigious literary journal to the most influential literary journal, which is the New York Times Book Review. You might have seen in the news they just published their top 10 books of the year. 5 fiction and 5 nonfiction. And the results are nothing less than embarrassing. Let's go through it. Let's do the 5 fiction. There's The Association of Small Bombs by Karan Mahajan. There's The North Water by Ian McGuire. There's The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. There's The Vegetarian by Han King. And there's War and Turpentine by Stefan Hertmans. Now, the last one, Stefan Hertmans' book, is so closely, so photographically a memoir that if you were to stop him on the street and say, "Hey, your book is made up," he'd be personally offended. He'd start hauling out old photo albums. So I'm chary of including it as a novel at all, but even if we do, look at this list. The Association of Small Bombs, The North Water, and The Underground Railroad were all award darlings. They all made the news before they made this list. And The Vegetarian is a translation, and so is War and Turpentine. War and Turpentine is a translation of a book that's almost 4 years old. The Vegetarian is a translation of a book that's almost 10 years old. And these were done in a year when at least 500 novels were written in English in 2016. Not in some other year, and not in some other language. And then we move on to nonfiction, and it's even worse. The first book is Sarah Bakewell's At the Existentialist Cafe, then Dark Money by Jane Mayer, then Evicted, Poverty and Profit in the American City by Matthew Desmond, then In the Darkroom by Susan Faludi, and then The Return by Hisham Martar. And of those 5, the only work of those 5, The Return, In the Darkroom by Susan Faludi, Evicted by Matthew Desmond are all memoirs. Dark Money is an expose that could be invalidated or expanded or turned on its head tomorrow. And At the Existentialist Cafe is a history of the existentialists, but as a history, it is, as the euphemism goes, anecdote heavy. It's more of a chatty walkthrough of the wacky existentialists, of Camus and his buddies. Where on this list is history? Actual history. Where on this list is biography? Again, 500 candidates. Where is nature? Where is science? 3 memoirs out of 5. Dark Money as one of the 5 best nonfiction works in 2016. This is a lazy, shallow, shot from the hip list designed to make the reader feel included rather than to instruct the reader in either what they have read and how it stacks up against the stuff that the editors have read, or what they haven't read and might be interested in reading. These aren't the man and woman on the street hauled into the New York Times office and put in front of a tape recorder. These are the literary editors of the New York Times Book Review. And this list is put together like a high school yearbook committee. They're not going to make a second list. The New York Times at least gets a second bite at the apple. They will have that big holiday book issue that they always have, the book review, which is just, it's paragraph blurbs of 100 different books. And that'll be something. But it's not the same thing as the editorial team weighing in with a qualitative decision. This bodes ill for other lists that are coming out. I've seen a couple of others that don't actually surpass these by much. So I thought I would take the moment to rant about this idiocy, and also to point out to you, if you're new to the channel or if you haven't heard me go on and on about it in the past, that in December on my Intergalactically Famous book blog, Steve Reads, I come out with the year's best and worst books of 2016 in a list that is definitive. I have read more books in 2016 than in any other year of my life, and by the end of the year I will have surpassed any record that I've had. But more importantly than that, I've read more books and more new books in 2016 than the whole of the editorial boards of the TLS and the New York Times Book Review. All of their offices, all of their cubicles, all the piles of good intentions they never got to while they're rereading Simenon for the 50th time and then waxing poetic about it in some journal somewhere that'll pay them $500. When there are books to read, the books we've seen on this channel, where there are piles of new books to read, and you're being affectatious somewhere for money, but you're a New York Times Book Review editor. One way or another, I wanted to make a quick video to tell you that this list for the New York, the TLS, I doubt many of you have seen, and it isn't ranked. It has some embarrassments on it, people who outright admit that they don't read books anymore, but it also has some interesting things in it, and some nice catches that I didn't see coming. But the New York Times, you might have seen, it might have shown up on your Google News feed. It's the most influential book review in the world, and they've just come out with a list of the 10 best books of the year that isn't even a mile close to the 10 best books of the year. So I wanted to tell you, in case you saw it and were thinking, but I read a couple of those books, and they didn't seem all that good to me. Your instincts are correct, and help is on the way. The Steve Reads list will be here in a couple of weeks, and it's definitive. Genre by genre, book by book, title by title, all the way to the bitter end. In the meantime, I think while I was preparing this video, I think another list showed up online, so I will go and wallow in my misery. But I'll see you soon, book 2.